Hey guys, it's Joe here, and today we're going to talk about self-reliance in Social Security. Yeah, rewind that for a second. Those two things are going to be together, and I think it's important. We've got a new act that just passed on May 23rd of 2019. It came through Congress. It's headed to the Senate, and it's going to make some changes to Social Security. So whether you are someone who's just getting their first job or someone who currently enjoys some of those benefits, we've got some discussion to do. We've got to point out 3 key points you have to know to talk about this, and I hope it moves you to the point where you're going to call your senator, and if it does, I want to know which way you went on it. So stick with me. This is going to be a really cool conversation. I think you're really going to like it. All right, today we're going to talk about Social Security. This is a topic that's coming up today, or specifically around the Social Security 2100 legislation, which is how do we bring Social Security in through the year 2100, which seems super far off. But I want to go through a few things. First, I want to talk about the Social Security program, and that is made of a couple parts, and I think everybody needs to be a little educated on that. And I think we need to understand of the Social Security Administration's program called the Federal Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance Program, or OASD, which is probably why they don't call it that, because it's not that clever of a name. But it is out there as a program to protect old age people. They literally say old age people, survivors, and individuals with disabilities. So let's take a look a little bit at the history of that, and then let's get into the 3 things that you need to know about the new act so that you can take the appropriate action that you feel you need to take. Mine might be writing my senator, but you take the action that you think you need to. So first, the administration, FDR, it's the end of the Great Depression. He's got to do something. There's a ton of people who are destitute, and they just never save money. Now, this is the podcast of the National Self-Reliance Initiative, and this is a podcast for people who are prepared. So right off the bat, we see a problem that's there, that there are people who are not preparing. This is why we prepare. There are people who are not relying on themselves. That's why we tend to be a group of individuals who, if you're listening to this podcast, are probably saving something for your retirement. If you're not, email me. We need to talk. Now, if FDR doesn't jump in here, he's got a whole different program. He's got to figure it out. But what he decides to do is do a standing program. This is a national program that is now going to be set into law, and he's going to do an executive order here, and then it eventually gets turned into law and handed over to a whole other department of the government as they continue to expand their wings. And we're going to take a look at how that evolved. So they start it, and they say, look, here's the deal. We're going to take 2% of everyone's paycheck. We know you already pay taxes. We're going to take 2 more % of that, and we are then going to use it to pay for people who didn't save money for retirement, who got old, who are disabled, or who are survivors of individuals who died, who were the income breadwinners for their family. I'm not going to say they didn't need that. What I am going to say is that we started a program. There's some debate that's going on in Congress at the time. There's a Democratic senator from Oklahoma named Thomas Gore. And Thomas Gore asks the Secretary of Labor at that time, Francis Perkins, he's like, is this socialism? And Perkins is like, no. And his only response is, isn't it a teeny weeny bit socialism? So this is a Democrat who is arguing that the legislation coming in is a lead-in, a teeny-weeny bit socialism. And he's right. It is a teeny-weeny bit socialism. It is a speck. It's a toe in the door for a movement. Now, I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I believe in independence. I believe in self-preservation. I believe in a lot of those things. So I'm not going to weigh in on all those things. I think it's kind of interesting that you've got a Democrat who typically in this day and age are pro-social programming, questioning, are we really just kind of dipping our toe into the water of socialism here, and is that where we're really going to end up? So let's start fast forwarding. So we go fast forward. 1939, 2%, a little bit of a paycheck, helping some people out, pretty valuable maybe. Most people are kind of okay with 2%. They didn't see that as a issue. By 1939, we add in spouses of people who paid into it and children who need these dependents, right? Basically, that's the dependent side here. We then grow the program, and by 54, we're saying also people who are disabled and can't work because they couldn't work, we should help them out. You know, from a humanitarian standpoint, I get that. The funding standpoint, this is where we're going to have some problems. So we decide at that point, well, that's a crap load more people. We should double the amount we're taking everybody's paycheck. So we go from 2% to 4% by 1954, right, post-war America. We've got 1961 comes up, and we decide that we should lower the age for Social Security to let some people take advantage of it at a lower rate than, say, the full rate. And in order to do that, we need more funds. So we went from 2% to 4%. Now we're at 6% of your paycheck. By 1965, 4 years later, we decide medical benefits are needed in order to insure the life. Medical costs are just too much. So we add a program called Medicare. The program is going to provide care, provide funds for care, offset the cost of medical care for people who qualify for it. So we go from 6% to 7.25%, and now we charge a different tax, and this tax is the Medicare tax, and that's at 0.7%. So we're just over 8%, just under 8% now for our taxation rate by the time 1966 comes around. 65, they create Medicare. 66, they decide to raise the taxes to pay for Medicare, as the government constantly works to extend a service and then figure out how to pay for it later. I'm just establishing a trend here. Go with me for just another moment. So that's all well and good. In 1983, they're starting to struggle how to pay for this thing. So they go, okay, now the benefits on Medicare should be taxable income. Let's start charging taxes on people who get Medicare so that we can take the money and pay for other people who get other benefits and other social programs. So now we're recycling. We're now giving out a tax distribution and then retaxing it to reclaim it. If the intent here is to help people and to give them enough money to get by, should you give them the money and then take back a portion of it? I question the logic there. If you really need to give a handout, you should hand it all out, not give them a loaf of bread and take back 3 slices. Here nor there, by 1996, we passed some legislation to limit who can get it. We've already raised the age for younger individuals to 67 from 65. We now are only going to allow Americans to have it. I mean, man, it took how long? This thing started in 1935. We got all the way to 1996 before we decided maybe America shouldn't pay for non-Americans to retire. I'm struggling sometimes to understand how long it takes the government to recognize things that may be pretty common amongst us. But we decide in 1996 we are not going to pay for non-Americans to retire in America. And in addition to that, we are no longer going to cover in Medicare any kind of drug or alcohol addiction. So this is 96. This is just after the war on drugs. We have now decided that maybe we shouldn't pay for drug and alcohol. Whether you believe we should or shouldn't, drug and alcohol addiction today is a huge issue we have to deal with. We've got to figure it out. I'm not saying the government needs to pay for it, but we've got to find a way for industry to pay for it, if not the government. And that means people who are creating these drugs need to start chipping in to start rehabilitate people who are on these drugs. I'm off on a tangent. Let me pull back in. By the time we got here in 96, we had gone from 2% tax on Social Security when FDR came up with it. We're now at 12.4% tax rate. Let this sink in for a second. The rate that we are paying out continues to go up. the rate that we are taking from everybody who's earning continues to rise. The rate is unsustainable at this pace. Unless you watch the Social Security Administration's video, and they will tell you the rate is sustainable. We've got it. But that sounds a lot like kind of a campaign for socialism. If you watch the thing, it's actually kind of funny. So with that in mind, we've also added in the Medicare benefits. We're now at the 2.9% in Medicare benefits. That's over $15 of every $100 you make, not even including taxes, that are coming out in payments and contributions to Social Security and Medicare. $15 out of every 100 is now going into a plan that we're going to talk about in a second, what we're trying to do to get it funded through 2035. I'm not going to retire in 2035. I'll still be working. So this scares me a little bit. And for many of the folks that listen to this, and I think the demographic is a lot closer to those that are at or about Social Security age, there's potential consequences here too. So all that in mind, we're now at $15 out of every $100 you make going into this social program that, as we remember back, the Democrat Gore is asking, is this socialism? And they're like, no. He's like, it's a itty bitty teeny weeny bit of socialism. It snowballs like anything the government has. As they get a program, they tend to find ways to increase that program and then figure out ways to pay for it, which 9 times out of 10 means get more money from the people who are paying into it now, who are working, who are making money. I'm on a bit of a soapbox here, but you can understand where I'm coming from here from an idea of self-reliance. It's not that it is not a matter of caring for people. We care for people. I donate to causes that I think sincerely help people be better people. I think we all should donate to causes that make people. I don't think you should have to donate. I think that somebody reaching into your pocket and deciding how to give the money out is not the right way to do it. I just feel strongly about that. So by 2009, remember, we figured out that we shouldn't give retirement benefits to people who aren't Americans. The United States government shouldn't give non-Americans. That was good. We now got to the point, and by 2009, we decided we probably shouldn't also pay prisoners to retire. So if you're a prisoner and you're incarcerated and you've hit the age to qualify for a benefit, for Social Security insurance, which is what this is, break that down for a minute. We put a plan in place to create insurance policy for America. We didn't believe that America could do it on its own, that there was no security in the social element that is the United States of America, that the social fabric of our country would at some point break apart, and that we would need insurance, an insurance plan, to be able to make sure that the country itself didn't fall apart, that we did not go to a place of social unrest. Now, there's a part of me that understands the distribution of wealth is growing. It's almost at the same levels today that it was during the Great Depression, or just prior to the Great Depression, during the booms of the 20s. But that being said, I don't know that I truly believe that things will get to the point where social unrest will happen because of that. Maybe I'm naive. You can write me and tell me. I'd love to understand it better because I'm sure I'm missing something on the topic. But as usual, I'm just looking at history here, trying to pull a plan together of what I think I should do and how I should act. Back to the story, 2009, we decide not to pay a retirement payment to people who are currently in federal prisons. I can get behind that. So at this point today, 5% of the U.S. economy is Social Security payments. 5% of all the money made by anyone in the United States today is being paid out by the government by this one benefit. It's not coming from corporations. 5% of the entire U.S. economy. That's staggering to me as baby boomers continue to retire. over the next 10, 15, up to 20 years, we'll see that grow by another full percentage point. This thing's going to top out at probably 6%, where 6% of the total earnings of United States citizens will be given to them by the government to ensure that there's no social unrest. Social Security insurance. The average distribution is the average distribution's $1,230. So that's $1,230 a month, and I think I haven't done the key math on it there, but I just wanted to give you some stats on exactly where that falls. You can take that and calculate that into where your plan is and kind of think through what your plan would be to get by on that. And for many people, about 1 in 5 people, that's a full retirement benefit that replaces 100% of what they were making before. So it's plausible that there's zero loss in your retirement. You live the way you live today. But I wanted to go through the 3 facts, and this is what I said I would set out to do. I'm going to give you 3 facts about this new Social Security 2100 legislation. It sounds like a weird number to say, just thinking about the year. But Social Security 2100 legislation. So first thing the bill's going to do, and this is passed the House. It passed the House May 23rd, 2019. It is going to be up on the Senate floor. I think it's going to have a little struggle there, specifically on the Senate side, being a little more conservative right now. But I think it's going to have some struggles there. But the first one is they want to raise Social Security tax from 12.4% to 14.8%. Look, I don't need to rehash this. I think this is, again, the sprawl of socialism into what we know is our representative democracy. And where I lean to more of a capitalist society, I think that this is a big mistake to continue to move down this path. There's got to be some other reasons. Here's the problems that I want to present. Even the lowest income worker is going to take a hit of an extra $2 out of their $100 going to the government. If you want to curb the need for a insurance program like this for retirement, we need to encourage people to save. The way to encourage people to save is to keep more money in their pocket, not take more money out of their pocket. In essence, what we're truly saying here is, America, we believe more so today than we have ever before that you are unable to take care of yourself, and that you should no longer be self-reliant. You should be reliant on us. Don't worry, we're here to take care of you. Reagan's scariest words you ever heard, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help, right? It does. It frightens me a little bit as to the direction it's going. So we're now going to tax even more, and it's especially impactful to lower income parties than it is to people who make a good living. They're going to be able to continue to put away. Their growth in their ability to do that will happen. But we all know it's that first dollar, it's the earliest dollar that carries the most weight in retirement. And for many of these folks, take an extra $2 out of every 100 they have is going to prevent them from putting even just $5 away a paycheck. Doing something. Here's a second problem we have. That's 2% less that that person puts away in each and every paycheck. So first I said, man, it's going to hit people and deter them from starting to save because they don't have as much in their paycheck. The second thing, and those of us that do save, I now can put away a smaller percentage. I have to make a choice. I'm going to put 2% less away in my savings, or I am going to bring home 2% less. Those are my only options the government's going to present me with. Do you want 2 less in spending dollars, or do you want 2 less in your retirement? By the way, we're going to take the 2%. Maybe that retirement will come back to you, but I can guarantee you the amount that they're going to give me for my 2%, if I played that in the market in my portfolio, I'm going to make out like a champion compared to what I'm going to get back from the government on their 2% investment. Absolutely, no doubt about it. I can guarantee. I don't care if you are in a standard 2040 plan, you're still going to make out better in the market playing the S&P than you are going to be giving the money to Social Security. The problem that Social Security has is they feel that if they let you have the $2, that you're not going to put it in your savings plan. And for many of us, they're probably right. But for many of us, they aren't. And I think your problem here is really more education, not necessarily having to come in and do it for them. You can do your kids' laundry until they're 25 if you want. Or when your kids are 5, 6, 7, 8, start to involve them in the process. And then eventually require that they do their own laundry. Not by like, hey, here's a penalty if you don't do your own laundry. But, hey, Mom, where's my pants? I don't know. Wash some pants. So that's kind of where I'm at on that piece. So fact 2, most financial planners advise retirement income is at or around 70% of your final year's salary. So right now, I mean, that means when I retire, let's say I make $100,000. Let's throw a number out there for easy math. If I made $100,000 or my family made $100,000 when I retire, I would need, once I retire and stop working, to still have $70,000 in income going forward. If I did that, if I accomplished that at retirement, we would have, or advisors would say, you've got a really great plan. You've got a solid plan to get there. If I did more than that, they'd be like, that's astonishing. So what the new plan, the new law puts in place is that, so currently lowest quartile earns wages at 80% continuance of wages. So if you are in the bottom fourth of American wage earners, you make 80% of your wages. If this law passes, they're now going to say that if you're a bottom quartile earner, we will continue 95% of what you make today going forward. 95%. Here's my next problem. My next problem is if I told you that let's go back to the laundry one. If I was going to wash 95% of your laundry for perpetuity and fold it all up and get it in your drawers for you, how much would you care to start figuring out how to do your own laundry? The problem, I'll bring the metaphor around, is really that we need to educate people to begin to save. If you hold their hand to the point where you're going to pay them all but 5% of what they make today, there's no incentive to learn how to close the gap. If I'm going to pay you 80%, there's still not a lot of incentive. If I was giving you 50% continuation of your pay today, you might go, that seems like a little bit low. I'm going to tuck a couple dollars in the market here and at least go buy some bonds. At least shove it in a mattress, start a savings account. Something that will get you there. But if you know the benefit is not going to be there, if we can educate them to the benefit will not meet their needs, then we're able to start to turn the tide a little bit, moving the other direction and giving the bottom quartile 95% continuations of wages just doesn't seem like the right educational element. It doesn't seem like the right way to frame the conversation to motivate individuals to save more on their own and to become more self-reliant. Okay? So third fact, right now you split between you and your employer the payments that go into your federal old age survivors and disability insurance, that SSI, as you'll think of it. So of the wages today, that amount comes out of the first $132,900 of earnings. So that is approximately $16,000 a year for someone that makes $132,000. And you may say, well, I don't make $132,000. But there are a number of individuals in the United States that do make that, and I want to draw a little bit of attention. We take a look at the people in the bottom quartile. Let's take a look at the top quartile and how it affects them too. So yes, this one only affects the highest earners that are out there. I get that. But of those who are considered the highest contributors, the government defines that as people making $266,000 a year. Those are your one percenters, but those one percenters shift a serious amount of cash in savings. When this bill is set, it's going to remove the cap on Social Security taxations. The burden on those individuals will increase by 2.4 times, not 2.4%. They will be paying 240 times what they pay today in their average, in the average amount that they're able to put away and able to invest. There's some things that we talk about in investments and like the power of sevens and things like that. There's a multiplier of 5, and that the dollar that you put into the market, if that dollar is lent out 5 more times when you invest it. So I put $1 into the bank, into savings, into a bond, into whatever it is, that is lent out, put into a portfolio that is then leaned against again. I understand that we're talking about devaluation of currency because we overlean on $1, but it's truth in the market. If I can get $1 into in financial institution, that financial institution eventually will leverage it out 5x, which will allow 5 times more construction, 5 times more building, 5 times more business growth, new jobs to happen. As I begin to pull those dollars out, they have a 5x multiplier on the damage we do to the economy. And so when we're taking the person who maybe makes the most money or puts the most money into savings, and we are increasing by 240% the amount that I'm going to take from them, I'm effectively decreasing 5x that percentage out of the market. This could be pretty crippling, and I think from an economic standpoint, from a dollar economic standpoint, I think it's something you have to consider. So that's another problem that I have. So where I'm sitting right now, and this is where I'm reaching out to you and asking for your feedback as well, as I commonly do on these things, I'm just kind of stuck in the middle as not being a Republican or a Democrat. But this one I kind of get a little more heart on. Are we just throwing good money after bad? Or are we truly helping people? And if we're truly helping people, are there any other ways that we could do that? Is there a different way that we can help individuals with the money we have today? Are there ways that we can patch and control this through additional education to save a future generation from needing to rely on this? And I'm no economist again, but there is a true pragmatist in me, and it draws me back to the answer might be, what's the famous quote from War Games? The only way to win is not to play at all. And that's where I'll leave you today. Let me know your thoughts on this one. Let me know if you're going to write to your senator and if you're going to influence them to vote one way or the other way. I'd be really curious, and more curious than, and I really want the people who are actually going to actually write, because that's people who actually are going to make a difference. Like, people who are going to talk about it and not do it. But if you're really going to write to your senator, please reach out to me and let me know. It's Joe at nationalselfrelianceinitiative.com, or you can hit me on Facebook on our private Facebook group. That's NSRI USA on Facebook. You'll find the group. It does have, it is a private group, so you need to ask to join. I'll let everybody in. So just ask to join. I just do it so I can kick out people that aren't playing by the rules, which is just be respectful and don't go after anybody. Don't be rude. As long as we're doing that, we've got a fair forum for communication, and this is one I really could use some feedback on. So if you're willing to do it, write me and let me know. But thank you for your time on this one. I hope this was informative to you. I hope this helps you, if nothing else, have a good coffee conversation with someone else about it and help you form your position on it as well.